Morning, Ralph.
Morning, Sam.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Morning Sam, Morning Ralph, the podcast for restaurant technology professionals. We have a really great guest today, Chad, someone who I think all of us admire a great deal. She works for an organization called CORE, goes by coregives.org, and it's Jill Chapman. But before we introduce Jill, Chad, did you know that over 1 million workers in our industry are parents?
I've never thought about it in those terms, but that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Like restaurant employees are also parents. Is that
Yep.
could that be real? Well, I think it is. And
It's a hard life, right?
it,
Already, you
it's
add in the kids, it's a challenging mix. I know a few folks that are parents and restaurant workers, and they busy people.
they're busy people. Well, just imagine if a crisis suddenly happens to a family that works in the restaurant industry. It can be a real burden. So, with that, we'd love to introduce Jill Chapman. She's representing CORE. They're a nonprofit dedicated to providing relief for restaurant workers and with families facing really challenging situations. Welcome to the program, Jill.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you here, Jill.
Well, Chad, I know we have a bunch of discussion topics that we have lined up for Jill today. And Jill, we can start off just learning a little bit more about how you got involved with CORE and what
Sure.
drives the organization's mission.
Absolutely. I think majority of the people that you talk to, at some point in their life, they've worked in the restaurant or bar industry, even if it was a teenager. And so same with me, and actually a couple different times in my life. And when the position came open, I I just loved it. I love the mission. Most everybody can relate to working in the restaurant and the challenges that are faced there. And so yeah, so here I am. I'm the corporate partnership director, and my main focus is working with corporate partners, companies, and restaurants, just creating awareness and funding our mission.
Jill, what inspired the creation of Core in the first place?
That's a very
And
good
what
question.
are the unique challenges in the industry that you solve?
Yeah, well, actually, we're in our 20th year. The core was from its inception. 20 years ago, a group of adult people who worked in the adult beverage sector.
Mhm.
And it was after one of the big conferences that are still going on right now, the NRA in Chicago every May. They were having a drink after the conference and they just started talking. And they just realized that there's a hole in the industry, especially for working parents, because when you have a child, it changes everything. If you're a single guy, you can couch surf if something happens, you can figure it out, or a single female. But when you have a child, that changes everything. So they really embrace the family, helping the family in the restaurant industry in a time of need. And it was on one of those napkin things. And instead of the next day waking up after a couple drinks, they honestly did something about it.
Th-
They came through, and it started. Actually, they reached out to Make a Wish Foundation, and they partnered with them. And after a little while, the feedback they got was, "These are fabulous memories. You can't you can't deny that." But one thing, that when our child or our child is going through this medical issue, we have bills that we can barely keep track of. And so then Core stepped back and said, "Oh my gosh, we should be the financial arm for families in crisis in the restaurant industry." So that's when they pulled off, and Core really got solid with our foundation of who we've become today. And so that's really how Core came about. And really, the mission is that, if you want to like just hear the actual mission,
yeah.
is we support food and beverage service employees' families in a time of crisis. And it could be a health issue, an injury, a death in the family. It could be domestic abuse and or disasters.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the thing that one of the reasons why I reached out to you almost immediately after Helene was that, well, first and foremost, I had learned of your organization through the sponsorship work that Paul Barron's network does, his podcast network, and he's a great supporter of CORE. And he was telling me, Paul, you just got to figure out ways to donate your time, your talent, or your treasure. One of those three things, right? You can give away
Mhm.
some time, you can give away what you do from a talent perspective, or you can donate. And
Or all
or all
three.
three. I mean, if
Yeah.
you collect all three, yeah, I mean, you can collect them all. But he turned me on to you guys, and then when Helene happened, I was like, holy crap! I bet they're
Yeah.
probably, because I made my little donation, I did my little thing, but
Yeah.
it's what kind of response did you get after the never mind the first hurricane, but then the second one? I mean, was it
Yeah.
a
I
crazy
know.
time there at
I
Core?
know. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There was a major uptick in our grant applications, and in each state we saw a different amount of grant applications come in because it's all awareness.
Yeah.
We, the Florida Restaurant Association, we're partnered really well with CORE. The people that are their membership, who are members of the Florida Restaurant Association, they know about CORE. They put out information regularly, and when a disaster or hurricane happens, we immediately reach out to them and say, "Hey, here's a pre-written email. Get it out to your people. We're here." And so we received a lot from Florida,
Mm.
and again we've got Georgia and North Carolina and East Tennessee. We need to work better with awareness with some of the other states that they can have it. We can serve the people there as much as we do in Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's Chad. It's kind of safe to say that either every state or region has a restaurant association, right?
Mhm. Yep.
I mean,
Right.
so one of Popcorn's mission, of course, is to help with the awareness, whether it be of
Mhm.
technology companies or organizations like CORE. So we definitely have to do our part to make sure that Chad and I are based in Boston. What can we
Yeah.
do with the New England Restaurant Association to make you guys to make them aware of CORE? What can California do with the wildfires that are going on out there, right, where people are being
Exactly.
displaced? So it's really amazing work. So can maybe you can tell us what kind of support, Chad? I know you were asking earlier, like what kind of support
Yeah.
do you provide? Is it purely financial or?
Absolutely. Yes, actually, it right now it is purely financial. When someone when somebody is needing help, when it's an injury or a natural disaster, I mean, helping them with funds to pay their mortgage. I mean, really, what we help with is mortgage or rent, utilities. It could be a medical device. Every
Hmm.
The help we give is not a cookie cutter. It is per person, per case by case basis. I mean, for example, if we're going to help someone with their mortgage or rent in California, it's going to be a lot different than in Alabama. So we don't we just kind of look at each case that comes in individually, and so financially, it is that is our biggest thing right now. And maybe as we grow, things might change. But right now, when someone is in a crisis and they've got to pay their rent because they could be evicted, that's where we come in and say that they need financial help. Period.
Jill, that's fantastic. And I know for if one of our goals is awareness, people latch on to stories. So could you tell a story of an example of a real family, right, that CORE has helped and the difference that support made in their lives?
Yes, absolutely. There is one not too long ago. I'd say probably in the last month. It was this. single mom, and she had a son who was autistic. So he may have been in sixth grade, but was really at a third grade level. So couldn't really do much on his own yet. And she had stage 4 cancer. She had been going through the chemotherapy and radiation for quite a while and wasn't able to work. And she had said, she wrote to us and applied for a grant. And she literally said, I've got 2 weeks before the eviction process is starting. And I told my landlord, okay, I'm either going to be able to figure out a way to pay you, or I'm going to stop my chemotherapy and go back to work. But she'd hate to lose all the work that she did going through all that radiation and it to stop to pay rent,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
so her son and her could have somewhere to live. And you just sit there. I thought to myself, well, how can you make a decision like that?
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to work and work my shifts, but before taking care of my body where I could die, I'm going to stop chemotherapy and radiation so I can work a couple more hours this week to pay my rent. So of course she got a grant from CORE, so they had a roof over their head for a period of time. And we also know other places she could apply to. When our grant runs out, we can help with other places she can apply to help for her for a little bit
Oh,
longer.
that's great. So that support system is not just there. You're not just like writing a check and saying best of luck. There's
Yeah.
also there's I want to learn a little bit more about how you're working with these folks. But before we do that, maybe you can tell us, uh, how does somebody apply for a grant? Is it
Sure.
simple as going to your website or
Hmm. Yes, absolutely. When you first go on our website, you'll see a button that just says apply. And then when you hit that, it'll kind of give you some criteria to make sure that you do fit the criteria before you go further into the grant process. But in which is you have to have a dependent child in your household. Someone in the family must work as a service worker in the food and beverage industry. And then one of the qualifying circumstances, the the in the injury, health issue, natural disaster, one of those type of things. And then once you do, you can apply, and then we'll have a caseworker, one of our grant caseworkers, look at your application and give you a call and just kind of verify and talk through. We really feel that phone call and getting that personal touch is really important, because it, not only do we just call and get the facts and make sure everything
sure?
checks out right, but we're we care.
Yeah.
And when we have our grant people call, they've been through so many stories, and it's heartbreaking actually. And so they really just give them hope. And if for some odd reason we can't help them, we find other ways that we can try to help support them or turn them on to another place that might be able to, help them if we can't. But if they go through the process and they do get a grant from CORE, within probably 3 to 6 weeks they'll have a check. And we've streamlined our process, so obviously these days you can ACH payments, we can get it right to your mortgage company. And CORE is actually, we are the gold seal standard seal from Candid. And what Candid is,
Mm,
it's a it's a place where nonprofits can put all their financials every year through, and it's for nonprofits, and it just shows transparency. So you can see where our dollars are going. And we've earned it, and the gold seal is really earned by only 2% of nonprofits out there. And so we're one
wow.
of them. So we're really proud of that. That just means when we're talking with sponsors and partners, that they know that their dollars are being used appropriately with
That,
that. Uh,
that's huge. That's
yeah.
fantastic because I mean, Chad, I don't know about you, but that is always a concern. You try to be charitable and you want to help and you want to make a difference, but you also want to make sure that wherever you're sending your money is
Yeah.
going, the vast
Yes,
majority of it
helping.
is helping, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's
And
excellent. The gold
and
standard.
related to that, right? And so, right, you can only do as much good as you have resources and finances
Mhm,
to do it, right? So,
mhm.
um, we believe in the core mission, right? But beyond just awareness, what are the challenges core runs up against in terms of getting support for its mission and that involvement?
Sure. I think, well, with us, and I'm sure with all nonprofits, you don't want to have more money than you're giving out. You don't want to give out more money than you have. So we've got
Yeah.
that financial balance is what we're always striving for. And so obviously there's two things because there's two sides of us, one the financial and one the granting side. The granting side is always to keep streamlined so we can help people quickly, and get through as many applications as possible, as quick as possible, but also making sure that who is receiving our money, the dollars, are legitimate people. So you know what I mean? So there's people who might try to say, oh, I'm sick, I'm ill, I've got something. So
Right.
we have to kind of make sure that the dollars are getting in the right hands and spent appropriately. And then on the fundraising side, the challenge is obviously raising the funds. Anytime there's an issue and economically with anybody out there, the first thing is going to get cut is the charity, so, or they pull back the funding. I get it. That's the way things roll. So it's trying to find ways that people, with an economy that might be down, find ways that they can still participate and help without really straining like a restaurant's income. So a lot of times we'll say, hey, let's just try to do a pour for core, and the dollar that comes back to core is built into the price of the drink. And a lot of times when people go to a restaurant, and if the drink is enticing and it sounds like it's good, a fun drink or a good tasting drink, most of the time people will spend that little bit more, and they might even not even realize it's a dollar more.
Right.
And then that's just an easy way that they might be able to draw more people into their establishment by having a promotion that benefits a nonprofit that's actually supporting the people that work in that restaurant. And and so that would take the burden off of them by finding a way to just kind of being creative on ways that we can raise funds.
And speaking of that creativity, one of the events that happens annually for one of the largest brands in our industry is Jersey Mike's and their Day of Giving. I mean,
Oh,
it's a phenomenal event that they hold where I believe it's a certain percentage of their revenue, or it could even be, yeah, I believe it's a certain percentage of a revenue one day a year.
just
Uh,
one day,
one
and it
day,
probably
and this year I was just looking it up. This year, Jersey Mike's raises a record-breaking 25 million in March for local charities nationwide.
in one
So,
day.
if nothing else out of this conversation, Jill, you better be calling Jersey Mike's and being,
Oh,
give me some of that 25 million.
guys, here I come.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Give us a percentage, 1% of
yeah,
that.
you take
We're happy.
at something. Well, that's just, I mean, so you talk about creative ways in which to give, in which restaurants can help, because at the end of the day, you're helping their own employees too.
Yep.
I mean,
Hmm.
I'm sure at some point or another, I'm not putting Jersey Mike's. I'm just only because I mean, we love Jersey Mike's. My goodness,
Yeah. I love you.
it's they're amazing, and what they do is absolutely amazing. Cancro is one of the most generous people on the planet, but you have to work it into the operation. That's
Hmm.
where that's where their that success comes from. It's literally built into the cogs and the gears of the machine. So how it's like we need to figure out ways in which we can get core integrated into
Hmm.
the operation so that it's they're helping you and you're helping them. It's this
Yes.
symbiotic relationship.
Mhm. Absolutely. I always say we have some corporate partners who they'll give a donation, and that's what they like to do. And we love that. Don't get me wrong, but we also love the when someone does a promotion or a pour for core, and it gives
Hmm.
us, gives them, it gives the restaurant, it gives us, it gives the alcohol supplier, whoever's involved, something to talk about,
Yeah.
and something to drive business to the restaurants more. So yeah, I totally agree what you're saying. that activity is huge, and it creates a lot of awareness, a lot more awareness.
A-
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, let's take a quick break at this. Or I see we're in at the 20-minute mark, so we're right on time to take a break. And guess who our sponsor is today? It's Core. And so once we get back from the break, Chad is going to take us into Hate to Tell You But.
All right. I hate
All
to tell
righty.
you. I can't
Fantastic.
wait.
All right, we'll be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Hey guys, welcome back.
All right, everybody, we're back with Jill Chapman of Core Gives, and we have a question for you, Jill. Everybody, right, who's been in this business for any length of time has heard some misconceptions about something. And based on your experience, you undoubtedly have encountered some of those as well, where the perception is one thing and the reality is another. Bust a myth for us. What is something people need to be
All right. All
made
right.
aware
Let's
on?
test a myth. All right. Okay. I would say a myth is that restaurant service employees, that when they are not working, they're not getting paid. And I think that people don't think that way, because a lot of us that are not in that industry, we all have health care. We have days off that are paid days off. So if and if someone, a service employee worker, has, and they're a single parent and something happens to their child, they have to take off. Or if it
Yeah.
happens to them, more than, they might most likely do not have health care.
Hmm.
So if more than 2 weeks goes by, that becomes extremely detrimental for our industry families that are working in the bar restaurant and bars. And what we also found was that they might be told, hey, you really can't go to back to work and you need to be off for another 4 weeks. That people actually go back to work early because they're so afraid and have fear of not being able to pay their rent or their utilities or whatever it might be. And so I think the myth is how much these industry families do need that outside support
Yeah, I
from
mean,
the,
if they're not working, they're not getting paid. That's kind of the moral of the
no,
story.
period.
And
Yeah,
you get sick, you're out, you break a leg, you can't walk around anymore, you can't serve guests, you break your hand, whatever it is, or it could be, of course, much worse than that. If you're on the sideline, you're not getting paid. And on top of that, you likely don't have health insurance.
yes.
And
And
And let's
and they
add
might
in
not have a
too. I
good,
mean, can I ask you a question on this, Jill? Because now I'm
yeah,
wondering
yeah,
if somebody's coming back to work, they're feeling the pressure to come back to work for financial reasons before they should. Are they impairing their ability to recover from a health situation and setting
yeah,
themselves up for even longer term failure?
yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
hmm,
Mm.
yeah, this is it's kind of this is a group of people that you hear. This is paycheck to paycheck for a lot of them, right?
Yep. And I was about to say that they probably don't have a lot of backup
Right.
to supplement that time that they're out.
Yeah. Just going a second off script here, and we can. What are you looking forward to, perhaps in the next administration, that could help restaurant employees?
I What we're understanding from the restaurants is, because everything is so expensive right now to do, preparing a meal in a restaurant, the food to purchase is so much higher. So
Hmm.
you have to put a bigger price
Yeah.
on to cover their costs. But then in turn, the people coming to the restaurant can't afford that anymore. So if the economy can get better, it will just steamroll, because then they can lower their prices, more people can go out, and then it's just everyone prospers.
Right. More hours to work, more
Yep.
steady business. The restaurant
Mhm.
operators, owners and operators are now feeling a lot more comfortable with setting hours. And yeah, clearly the economy needs to head in the right direction.
Yep.
Yeah. That'll help a lot.
Yeah.
What are Core's goals or initiatives for the next year? To
One thing we're going to do is we are going to add a staff member because we want to start doing more events. There's a lot of people that do events for Core and that will receive donations from it, but we actually want to put on our own possible golf tournament or just different things, galas or dinners, because we think that's really important. So we're going to branch into doing more of our own events.
I think that's a great idea. And as a matter of
Mhm.
fact, I'm wondering about our own industry and industry organizations and how and what are you working with the National Restaurant Association? Are you working with other industry associations to have a presence in to
That's
create
so
that
funny because you
awareness?
were talking about that. There's some that we have good relationships with, but we need to get better. We need to have more of those. There's one in every state, multiple in every state, and then the national. And we do have presence there, but we need to be stronger.
Yeah, I'm thinking that perhaps just putting on the marketing cap for a second here and wondering if that new staff person can be dedicated a little bit more to supporting these, whether it be state restaurant associations or regional restaurant associations, with when these events happen, setting up a booth
Yep,
and and just boots on the ground,
absolutely.
right? It's boots on the ground there
Hmm.
and creating that awareness that way. 'Cause that's
And you're
often,
absolutely right.
yeah,
And by having that additional person, it kind of gives us the staff that exists right now a little bit more time get more out there. So we're definitely in growth mode. So it's very exciting. And in the state restaurants and national restaurants, almost here we come. You're all going to know about us very soon.
better believe it.
Yeah,
So, Chad, this has been a great conversation. And without question, I've learned a lot more about Core Gives, and I hope that our audience has too. Jill, maybe you can tell the audience where they can find you, where they can find Core, how they can make a difference.
absolutely. You can go right to our website, coregives.org. And to be a partner to help with fundraising, there's like a button for that. And to apply, there's a button for that. It'll take you to the right direction that you need to be in. But honestly, to keep our mission alive, if anyone would love to do a fundraiser, a pour for core, there's people who there's a gentleman had his kids and they did a lemonade stand, and they put dollars. I mean, anything is helpful and it's great. And then obviously companies that support suppliers that support the restaurant industry, you become great partners. It's very meaningful to the restaurants that they're selling their product to know that they're supporting their employees.
Most definitely. You know what? I got to tell you, I'm going to say this out loud. I love the pour for core concept.
Yep,
That is cool. Chad, how many local breweries should do a pour for core? I
there we
mean,
go.
that would be killer.
and there's so many over here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just thinking like in our own like neighborhood, how many craft breweries are out there that can do a promotion like that? That would absolutely, I think, benefit from it as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
And as we wrap up, I know I want one of the last thoughts. Love Jill for you could share, like for you personally, what most motivates you to continue this work that you're doing?
Just knowing how many people we're helping in the industry, and I mean, it just really it comes down to the mission and seeing what good we can do and the hope that we bring to all these families.
Love it.
It's awesome.
Great stuff, Jill. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good work, Chad.
Yay. Well, thank you guys for having me on so people can learn a little bit more and have awareness of what we do. I can't thank you enough.
Well,
Our
absolutely.
our honor.
Yeah, our honor for sure. Well, this has been great. Hey, morning, Sam. Morning, Ralph. We're clocking out. Good stuff. Guys, have a good one.
You too.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.